Yeah, I think Sage just got back from a couple of weeks of being off, and maybe he's still catching up on other things. So here we are. Yeah, on the topic of local storage, I added a link there to a document from another weekly meeting we've been having the last few weeks with with our internal OCS team around what do we want to do with local storage, what are the requirements, um, and but oh hey Sage, um, I don't know that I have
Hey,
a lot of update today on local storage, but there's a link to the notes on where we are. But maybe it'd be good to talk through Sage if you're interested on that.
yeah, yeah. I'm bringing up the agenda.
Mhm.
That's the only thing on the agenda. Yeah. Okay. Um,
Right. Yeah, so
I
you've been
haven't
out
seen
for a
this yet.
couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just trying to think what's happened in that time. I
Hmm.
mean, to summarize in my mind, where we are is that the for dynamic provisioning, Topo LVM seems like the obvious approach to start with, uh, and base things because LVM gives us things we know that will really help. We don't want to do partitions and for a lot of reasons for dynamic provisioning. So Topo LVM looks good. I had a chat with Satoru, and they're really open to contributions, to getting new maintainers from other companies. They want to donate it to CNCF type of thing. So
Hmm.
they'd like to expand the community around it. So there's no concerns there um, about community or what
Does
we're
that
trying to
include moving
accomplish.
under the work project?
I didn't suggest that for now, um, since yeah, that's a good question. If they're if they just come under the Rook umbrella, then they wouldn't have to go through the whole CNCF
Yeah,
thing, jumping through hoops.
that might be worth a discussion worth having sooner rather than later. That would simplify everything, right?
Right, then we don't have to worry about the CNCF. It's just part of what we're doing. Uh, yeah, I'll ask him.
Um, okay, I'm just looking at the notes here. So this first part, the idea is basically that the existing Topo LVM operator could reuse some of the LSO code to do the raw device discovery.
Yeah, I'm not clear really what the idea is there because we want Topo LVM to work in the same cluster as like LSO, so we can get the benefits of static provisioning and dynamic provisioning. But then, yeah, which one? Yeah, LSO already has discovery, so can we just use that device discovery with LSO and have a new operator, or there's this Topo LVM operator that exists. It seemed pretty simple, but either we try and build on that or just have a new operator or that helps coordinate between LSO and Topo
Yeah.
LVM in some way.
I
And
guess I'm
that, yeah,
okay. I'm confused about the this idea that there's any point of having static provisioning if you have dynamic provisioning. Like what is the benefit of static provisioning over like why would you ever want static provisioning if you could do it dynamically? Like doesn't that just mean that static provisioning you can only create and only on day zero, day one or whatever. Dynamic provisioning you can create and delete and recreate at any time. Like what's the advantage of static provisioning? What does that mean?
right, right. Because agreed, if you have dynamic provisioning, it gives you all the flexibility of the other. I think there are two advantages in my mind. One is if you have scenarios that only need day zero provisioning, then LSO is just simpler, just define it and you're done. You never need dynamic provisioning. And second, if you um, you wouldn't have LVM in the stack. It's just raw devices, but not to worry about
That's the
having
second one.
LVM there.
Okay. I
Yeah,
mean, the first one is basically saying that it works now without any work, right? Like that's the advantage. That
exactly.
you don't have to implement dynamic provisioning if static is sufficient and you have it already. But I
Right.
guess what I don't understand is why for the second one, well, for the first one, I mean, that's not an argument not to add dynamic provisioning. It's just that you might not have to. But for
Right.
the LVM piece, why not just implement, or why couldn't you implement dynamic provisioning with raw devices as well? Like I was assuming that we would have basically you'd have like two storage classes. One storage class would be for LVs, for like, and it would give you an LVM based PV or whatever. And then the other storage class would be a raw device storage class, and it would give you a raw device, and both would be controlled by the same operator, or could be controlled by the same operator, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess with
And
tuple
then
LVM right now it requires the VGs and it's all based off LVM at that point.
yeah,
So so
but it could
I mean tuple LVM could be added. Yeah, it could add that functionality you're saying.
right. So I mean, there's this automate VG creation thing. Like I guess I would assume that Topo LVM would have some understanding of which devices it's allowed to use. And that's maybe that's just like all devices, whatever it is. And if but it wouldn't do anything with the devices initially. And if it gets a request for a raw device, it would find one of the raw devices and it would give it to you. And if you release it, it would put it back in the pool or whatever the reclaim policy says. And if you get a request for a partial device like an LV, it would either look at one of the existing LVM devices and put it there. And if it doesn't fit, then it would pick a new, it'd grab another full raw device and it would add it to the VG and then put the LV on it. Right? Like it could do all this dynamic. It could basically add PVs or whatever, create the PVs and add them to the VG on demand
Instead of
as needed.
requiring that upfront
Yeah,
like it does today with tuple
yeah.
LVM.
And in the far future, like this is certainly not like version 0, but like in the future, we could say it could even have some like consolidation function where if a bunch of the PVs have been released, they could be like migrated onto one device, and those devices could be cleared off so that they could then be reused as raw devices. Something like that, right? I don't think that's
Mm-hmm.
something that needs to be done anytime soon, but you can imagine in the future you might want to, like as the balance shifts between demand for raw devices versus demand for partial devices, then that could be moved around.
Right. So yeah, today we don't
I
really
think,
have that Uber operator
Yeah.
that would manage devices. Like who's gonna decide which device goes to which raw
Yeah.
or LVM. But what's that said?
I think there is also a scenario where, because I was discussing with Laurent on Monday, since he's really investigating Topo, there is a case where we could, if we want the entire device, then we could tell Topo that we want to acquire a full device. And if they don't really want to change the logic too much, then they could simply create a big LV on that device instead of just giving us the roadblock. I think that's also an option, but it has the downside, I guess, that we still have the LVM layer on top of it. But maybe we should just at some point really talk with the LVM team and see if there are really issues, I guess, interacting with LVM through containers, because that's actually the biggest problem we
Yeah.
can have, or just because we don't like having another layer, because another layer
Yeah.
always introduces some potential problems. But
I,
there's also
I
that
just
yeah,
real
that's
quick.
it.
I think that the LVM thing is a little bit. It's they don't have quite the same issue because at least on the Ceph side, the problem we had before is that we were running Ceph volume and we were creating the LVs and doing all that work inside our
Yeah,
container that doesn't match the OS. That same problem exists on the Topo LVM side, I guess. So we would have, if it's doing LVM stuff, it would have to make sure that it's somehow cooperating with the host version. But on the Ceph side, it wouldn't be a problem because the LV would already be pre-created and we would just be passing it through, I think.
yeah. No, that's right. That's right. It's more a problem inside core Topo LVM than it is for us,
Yeah.
because from our perspective, it's just a block device at the end of the day. So we don't really care. So yeah, there is also that possibility to where through a storage class, you use a parameter and then you say, okay, when we use that storage class and we specify that VG, we always get the entire, like the full size of that VG. And the VG is just like one PV, which in a physical volume, which equals just one disk. That's
I
also
think
one possibility, I
so.
guess.
I think that's an option in the short term. In the longer term, that won't be sufficient because we have to think about Crimson and ZNS devices, which won't support LVM at all, right? And possibly other types of devices might come into play, like if we need to,
Why wouldn't they support LVM? Is that like
because the
LVM supporting them?
DNS devices, that's like the SSD version of SMR, where they don't, it's like a weird block device. Like you can't arbitrarily, they don't, yeah, it's not a,
Okay.
Has to
it's
be
not
a
a
raw
standard block
device.
device. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the only way to
Put
do it is
LVs
to
on it.
just hand off the raw device to, probably at least, probably the only way to deal with it. We might be able to like create NVMe namespaces or something. I don't know. There might be some other way to carve them up, but nothing that actually we probably care about or want to do.
So we don't think this is something the LVM team could pick up at any point in time, just to make it work with LVM?
I mean, there are things that LVM and or device mapper can do with ZNS devices, basically trying to create a standard looking block device on top of like an SMR ZNS thing, but it's not what
Oh,
Ceph
and
wants.
reference it?
Ceph wants a raw device in this case. It just needs like the raw block device so we can interact
Okay.
directly with the ZNS interface on the device. This is for Crimson at least. Yeah. So it's a little ways down the road, but it's definitely coming.
Mm.
But I mean, I think it's I don't think it adds that much complexity. It's not really any more complex because you would still have the two different storage classes, one for like complete devices and one for partial devices. The only difference would be the complete devices would just not put LVM on there, and it would not do that extra setup that does passes an LV or whatever.
Yeah.
I think I don't know that it might be a little bit more complicated because you have to deal with two classes of devices, I guess, but or ways that devices are used, but not.
Right. And the
Like
stateside
TopoLVM will have.
driver. Yeah. Go ahead, Seb.
Okay. Oh, no. Well, I guess just real quick, TopoLVM will have to implement some kind of a raw mode
Yeah,
at
right,
this point.
exactly, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's all I was going to say too.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess my thinking is that if I don't know, yeah, it seems like we should make it clear what the like end goal is. Like these are the set of functions that we want, and make sure that TopoLVM folks are sort of on board with that, like having a raw mode to get raw devices, for example, and adding the discovery into TopoLVM and moving TopoLVM into the Rook project.
Yeah, I just think it's a huge milestone for them, and even to the point of rebranding, like TopoLVM, if they have raw mode, then is it really TopoLVM anymore? Which is, I guess, like not a
Yeah.
big concern, but
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, at the end of the day,
really
this.
the branding part isn't necessary, but it seems like it'd be more expedient for them to get into CNCF anyway, and probably get them. It seems like this to get them more users, I guess, so they would benefit from all this stuff.
Yeah, and with us refactoring out the storage provider into their own repo, we just started on that a couple days ago. Maybe be more clear that, oh yeah, then TopoLVM can just be sort of another Rook storage provider.
Yeah.
Maybe fit that pattern. Maybe they could go with that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like they built much community yet. I joined their Slack and it's pretty light. Not too many people.
Yeah. Well, do you want to have another conversation with them about the Rook? I guess there are two things, right? There's the Rook thing, whether they're interested in just moving under Rook and bypassing the whole CNCF thing. That'll probably take a year. um, and
Just
then
for the first step.
Yeah, and then whether this idea of adding the raw device management and so on into WLVM, including that support under the operator, like reasonable, sounds good to them.
Right, and today they just have a CSI driver, so I wonder if they'd need something higher level, like an operator that would then manage how to. No, maybe it'd still all be in the CSI driver.
For the discovery or something.
The CSI driver would just have to own creating or adding devices to the VGs at that point too, which it doesn't do today.
Yeah, but yeah, but that would, if I understand right, that would dovetail nicely. I mean, that's something that it should do anyway, because otherwise it's like tedious manual step that users have to do, and you don't want that, right? But it would dovetail nice into the dynamic provisioning of raw devices, because that's something I would have to own. And it decides that this available raw device is going to be used by the dynamic things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a time we could find to talk with them, or we've just been chatting in Slack. The time zone is so different.
Oh, because they're in Japan, is that right?
Japan. Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like our evening, yes. Not Seb's.
I can try. Yeah, I can try. I guess. During my morning. Yeah, I can try with my morning to chat with Satoru. That's the most likely, I guess.
That's true.
You're the best time.
Yeah, you're a little closer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is it like 7 hours for you to Japan? Let's see. It's 15 for me, but
it's a bit closer, I guess. It's 5 hours. Oh, okay.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So the end of the Tokyo workday is like 2 a.m. for you, Travis. And the beginning of day would be 4 p.m.
7 hours for me.
So I guess your afternoon, Travis, would be his morning.
Yeah, my late afternoon is when they're waking up.
But it's around midnight, Central European Central European time.
Yeah, he tends to wake up early. It seems like I see messages like at 5 a.m. his time. Like, what are you doing?
Good.
So
that'd be like late night for Seb and early afternoon for.
Right. So if we're going to have a meeting, probably one of us would just need to do it. So. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll plan on that.
Yeah, and NSO is also working towards CSI, and we still have no idea what that means. So we should also investigate that a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. Well, did they say they wanted to prototype it, or I thought the conclusion was we want to go with Top LVM because they've already got the CSI driver, and we wouldn't need to rewrite LSO.
Yeah.
No, but LSO is writing also like a CSI. They're working like to transition to be a CSI driver too. Does that mean we can get like dynamically raw device provisioned on LSO 2 next year? Because that's the target.
That seems like unnecessary. If we just focus on adding that to TopLVM, then we would kill all birds with Redstone.
Right. Did Rohan say that? I don't remember Hemant or Jan saying that, at least.
Well, they keep saying that they are working on the CSI implementation and that they cannot just take on any work.
Right. Well, Hemant and Jan said they're working on the CSI implementation. I
I
thought
don't
they were
know
just
who is working on it,
busy.
but
Yeah,
the team is working on it. Like some people are working on it, which apparently is taking all of their bandwidth.
yeah. I thought I was just working on all of other things that are basically making it so they can't support any of the features we want. So,
That too, I guess.
yeah. Well, they've got transition of the in-tree drivers. That's, they said, the big thing is the biggest thing right now for conversion tools and things. But yeah,
Okay. Well, we also have to think if the TopolVM team is like says no to raw devices. We
Yeah.
also need like a backup plan to that. Because it is kind of likely, I think, that they might say no, really. What's the backup plan?
well, I think part of that conversation is like, hey, TopLVM has some rough edges. Like you have to have these manual steps for VGs. They've got this.
Well,
Well,
but they are solved by the operator, so it's not like that of an issue, honestly.
that separate operator.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
meta operator that does the VG setup if it's going to go to TopLVM. But
yeah. I
then
think the
it means
operator does like
that
the
doesn't quite work
VG
though.
plus bootstrapping, just bootstrapping too.
It seems like that doesn't quite work because if you have a bunch of uninitialized devices and the very first request for a partial thing comes in, that goes to TopLVM, and so the meta operator wouldn't. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, sorry, one second.
Right. It seems like if you say the CSI driver is going to handle the dynamic provisioning of the raw devices without VGs, then the whole the whole thing has to change, and you probably wouldn't need an operator at that point to divvy up the devices.
Yeah, but you still need something to create the PV and VGs of LVM so that they can do dynamic provisioning out of it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Sorry, I missed it. What was the beginning of that, Deb?
Uh, I'm not sure. I think Travis, you said more, so
I guess
I
the, the thing that worries me about a meta operator is that if you want it to be like fully flexible, you would start out with a bunch of raw devices, and then if a claim comes in for a partial small PV, and that goes straight to the topo LVM thing, then it wouldn't be able to. It would need to be one operator in order to like go add LVM and then create the PV on it and then go from there. Like it would be hard to have this third party.
Right.
uh,
Sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, if you really want dynamic provisioning, top of LVM would have to change quite a bit, I think, to handle all of that.
To handle both raw and
That's all.
whatever. Yeah. Yeah. I have a hard time imagining why they wouldn't want to do that. I guess because then you have like
yeah.
you do all the things and then it's like more useful and it's more flexible and it satisfies more use cases with one.
Right.
It seems like that would make it into like a nice robust like didn't want anything fancy going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you want the perfect driver, or the fully featured, I should say?
Yeah. At least for then I guess then the
Okay.
question is like, well, what if I want RAID 1 and what if I want whatever? Then you have to
I'm
decide
sure
that.
people ask for LVM mirroring and stuff already, so not sure what's the answer to that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't really have any opinion. I mean, if the operator wants to support that, then like it doesn't hurt us, right? We just wouldn't use it.
Yeah.
I really wish that Kubernetes let you put extra stuff in the PVC so that you could like control that without having to define like a different storage class for every different flavor of. But whatever. So
Right.
gross.
Agreed. Okay. Yeah, so we'll follow up with top LVM folks on getting it into Rook possibly, or getting the raw device support, see if they have any concerns with that. And then, yeah, we've got the Rook huddle here in a minute. But any other last minute thoughts? Okay.
Nope.
Was there anything else on the agenda for today? I don't think I saw anything. Okay. Sounds good.
Cool. Okay.
I guess we'll call it good.
Cool.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Everyone. See
See
ya.
ya.
Thank you.